chapter went through more iterations. I mean, you hinted at that in your introductory remarks, but what a job it is to be an editor and deal both with the publishing side and the author side. We appreciate all that you did. My chapter, as Bledcom said, deals with qualitative study. I frame my chapter with the metaphor of the thinking heart, which to me explains not only how to be a researcher, but how to be a public relations professional. The thinking part talks about cognitive process and how the research and the practice must be systematic and scientific and rigorous, all of those values that we learn to embrace in graduate school. But the heart part means that we develop relationships with our publics and our research participants in a way that is human and doesn't pretend that there is a big gap between the researcher and the research, or that the organization always knows what's best for the public. So I see a lot of parallels between public relations practitioner and public relations researcher. With that metaphor as a framework for the chapter, you can read in the chapter a lot more about where the metaphor came from and how it's been used since the 1940s. I talk about certain basic principles of conducting qualitative research. To me, this is kind of old news, and yet I'm constantly running into people who tell me, why do you need to study qualitative research? You're just talking to people. I ran into this issue just recently with a PhD student at the University of Oregon. She's not my advisee. You know, I'm retired at this point and I never taught there in the first place, but she has a committee that has accepted a dissertation proposal based on survey research, but then asked her to throw in a few qualitative interviews. She explained that she doesn't have the tools to do this, and they said, tools for qualitative study? So I just alluded to some of the principles of establishing a research design that would be credible at the end of the day, and that would be transparent enough so that future researchers could figure out exactly what you had done should they want to conduct a similar study. I don't believe that replication is possible using either quantitative or qualitative research, but I do believe that others have a right to know exactly how we came to the determinations that we end up with based on our qualitative data. And I do believe that some studies are particularly well suited to qualitative research, particularly when you're dealing with those wicked problems that we so often face. I conclude my chapter the way that I will these few remarks this morning by saying that although we do have the ability to develop tools to conduct our research, there is simply too much insignificant research being done in my view. So let's make sure that we apply our good brains and all of the research methodology we have mastered to research that is going to be significant. Not those one-shot studies that may lead to a conference paper or even an article or a chapter, but that don't add up to very much. Our time is just too precious. There are too few of us doing public relations research in the world to squander our time and the willingness of participants to engage with us on some very trivial topic. Let's deal with the significant problems that continue to affect our field.